Hello, children of God. So we are back, and we will be discussing subject and content in this module. This is your first module for this month, and as much as possible, we will try to finish the four topics: subject and content, elements and principles of art within March, because I know before the midterm, because this will comprise as your midterm. No. Okay, so let's go to the learning objectives of this module. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to differentiate representational and non-representational arts. Number two, discuss the difference between an artwork subject and its content. Next is identify the subject matter and specific examples of art. And the last one is enumerate the sources of subject of some of the most recognizable works of art in Philippine history. Okay. According to Philip Johnson, the duty of an artist is to strain against the bonds of existing style. And when we say strain, it comprises the way how an artist break out, stretch farther, no, from what is already an accepted or an existing style when it comes to producing artworks. That is actually the duty of an artist. We could at least be safe to say that artists go through a lot of straining challenges in order to give you that particular art form that you are currently enjoying now, like particular painting, a movie, a song, no? No. These artists or these art forms do not just come out as an output just because, no? Artists go through a lot of challenges, processes, no? The choice of the materials, the medium. No, they go through a lot of process in order to give you not just a mediocre, no, a mediocre art forms. So, di sa lalim di ay ang duty of an artist. Awareness of style, the form, and the content helps a particular viewer to fully understand and appreciate visual arts. Now, this is so true. I think it would help someone understand a particular art form if he or she has a basic background knowledge about the style, the form, the content. Now, would you agree? Yes, of course, diba? So, when we were yet children, where we have no idea what is a content, what is the form, what are the style of an artwork, if someone presents to us a particular painting, kanang movie, or any art form, it would really be mind-boggling for us to understand what this particular art form speaks about. But the moment that you have particular knowledge already, na yung ana day ni ang content, yung ana day ni ang style, this is how artists has been using particular symbols in order to associate a particular meaning, so it would be a lot easier for us. Now, lahi ra jud. I think everyone can relate to that. Even kanang sa dili art form, no? What ay basic knowledge of something, di siya kahibaw, di ba? So, it also applies in artworks. Okay? Aside from the functions that we have learned, no, it helps us assess properly the value of a particular artwork if we have basic knowledge on its style, the form, and the contents. Okay, so let's go to the basic components of art. Now, in viewing art, there are clues. Now, clue ba? Mga, ano clue sa Bisaya? I don't know. Basta kay clues that mediate between the artwork and the viewer. Now, when in understanding a particular art form, this is now a battle between the viewer and the art form. Now, in between comes the clues. Now, that we can see, no, clearly, or we can discover, no, as we go along on analyzing a particular art form. These clues, no, allows the viewer for a more easy comprehension of what he is seeing. Pero haragod anang magtagna mo ay nakuan mo anang duwa bitaw nga Pinoy henyo. Okay, so wherein you have to tag na what is in the kanang haroy noo char Tagalog no katigog sa Bisayag agtang nalabad si unsay naa sa agtang sa imong kuan unsay naa sa imong agtang, you have to tag-an, diba? So you would be given clue, no? Particular set of clue wherein you can pattern your answers to it. So, ang ana pod kung mutan-aw taog art form, naatay pangitaon which is familiar nato. If it is a painting, we try to search for a particular subject, a particular medium, a particular materials that the painter might be using. Or if it is a movie, we try to look for particular artists or actors, what's the story about. So we try to scramble on familiar clues that would help us uncover what is really the message behind this particular art forms. Now these clues are the basic components of a work of art: the subject, content, and the form. Okay? So technically, the basic components of artwork comprises the subject, the content, and the form. Okay. So let's start with the subject. Okay. When you look at a particular art work, now say a painting, sagdi na mag-painting ni Pirmi ako example because I am fond of painting man lagi. But we can think of another form of art. No? So, if you are going to look at a painting for the first time, your initial question would be, what is this? Unsa man ni? Unsa ni nga painting? What does it show? So, unsa kay buot isulti sa painter ani nga particular painting? Sumunod na imong, di ba? Ita naman siguro mo painting pod. Oy, grabe lang pugwa. Sumunod na imong, unless for those painting that really speaks, no, what it really is. Anyway, mo-discuss na nato. Di na kinahanglan nga mo na pa kag what it is. What does it show? Because heads on naa naman. Okay, for those painting or artwork that are a little bit harder to comprehend, so that would be your initial question. Now, subject is referred to as the visual focus or the image that may be extracted from examining the artwork. This comprises the what. Okay? Di ba, di man should ka mo tanaw painting for the first time, and then mo ka nga, oh, okay, kay bawo na ko inga na. No. Except, of course, for those art form that is included in academic discussion. Nga, nahibaw na nimo since elementary, high school, or even college, no? So, of course, kahibaw na ka what it means because it has been discussed in academic discussion. But for those paintings that are new to you, mga works of the underrated artist, the unknown Angelos, smudge na ang imong first question nga blur out. What is it? What does it mean? No? So, when you say their work for the first time, you question, unsa kaha ang buot ipasabot ani nga particular artist ngano man nga nag-create man siya ingani nga artwork para unsa, para asa. So you have a lot of questions as we have I don't know if you still remember, no? So art can trigger your thinking ability. So that's why bitaw it helps you develop your upper thinking skills or your appetites because it encourages you to ask questions. Looking at the particular art, you are encouraged to ask questions. Sumuna ang ahong but ipasabot. Okay? Now, even if you still remember in the in our discussion of the functions of art, we often look for something that is quite recognizable in that painting, diba? So naa dito. So, mutanaw ta what is recognizable mo na unsang asang aspect sa mga subject or if it is daghan ang una nimo nga ma-recognize in a particular painting. We try to look for something we recognize so we can at least understand what the work what the artwork is. Okay, so mo na siyang subject, no, the visual focus. Now to most people, no, the appeal of most work of art lies on the representation of familiar objects. This comprises the subject of an artwork. Now, some people can relate to and some cannot. That is because the appeal of most work of art lies on the representation of a familiar object. So, mo na siya. So, makayung ka nga, anong akong classmate dali naman nakasabot ani nga particular painting. Nganong ako, dugay lagi akong processing. Maybe because your classmate has nakakita siya og familiar object subject familiar object that is turned into a subject in that particular painting. That's why it helps, no, your classmate to be guided in properly understanding the particular painting or art form. Okay? A subject may refer to a person, no? Kabaw naman taan na nga, pwede ka, as a person, you can become a subject. No? A subject could also be an object, anything, no? A scene, no? Saka panghitabo, or even an event, now described and represented in the works of art. Now, subject is what it pertains to the question what of an artwork. So I guess the subject is very self-explanatory na pud oy grabe but no need for further explanation naman tingali kabaw naman tag subject so mo na subject of art. Okay? Some arts do not have subject while others have. No? Pwede man na siya. No? Sometimes, artists, in their pursuit of just expressing their random thoughts, do not often use subject to put across the meaning in the work. Now, there are artists that are fond of using subject clearly, But there are also artists who does not like to remember that art is an expression of emotion. So, di siya kapayon lang pud nang uban na di man mo gamit og subject, gilisod-lisod lang mga jud ang viewer. Now, remember that aside from the purpose or the function of the works of art, it is an expression of the artist's emotion. So, man siya nga naa ibang artist nga dili mo gamit og subject. Now, many contemporary painters even have turned away from representational to non-objective painting. Now, they have shifted their attention to the work of arts as an object in itself. So, para nila, no, for these artists who shied away from representational to non-objective, so para nila, the art itself, no, is the subject. Now, it's an exciting combination of shapes and colors that fulfills an aesthetic need without having to represent images or tell a story. So, not all stories of the artist can be told using particular object as subject. Sometimes, the artwork itself without a subject, it's just a combination of shapes, colors, no? It comprises now the message or the story that particular artist wants to tell its viewers. Okay? Muna siya. I hope nasabtan na ang subject. Very easy naman po, oy. Okay? So, chila jud mo ani nga subject. Oh my God. Okay. Now, content, on the other hand, refers to the meaning that is communicated by the artist or the artwork. Now, this comprises the why of an art form. Now, just like questioning why the artist used this particular elements, why the artist used this particular medium, or why this particular artist used a particular material. Because sometimes what the story, what the artist is trying to tell a story would also reflect with how he uses elements, medium, or material. Sumo na siya gitawag og content. Now, in understanding content of art, it is important to note, no, that there are various levels of meaning, and we will discuss that later. Okay? Sometimes content is straightforward, meaning to say the story is told right on. No? In other cases, however, it is less obvious, no, and requires additional information. Now, content appears in visual arts in several forms, all of which may be figurative, or what we term as realistic, or abstract, or distorted. Among them are, of course, the portraits. That's very famous when it comes to, kanang abstract and figurative. And then there are also landscapes, still life, genre art, and of course the narrative art. Sumon as ang content. So, question which you need to answer in your video, because you are going to make a video out of this now. The instruction would follow, and then you will also the instruction of the video, how are you going to make, and then of course in your video you have to include the answer to this question. So what is the difference between the subject and the content? Okay, so mana siya. Okay, let's go to form. Form refers to the development and configuration of the artwork. Now, this refers to the how of the artwork. This pertains to how the elements and the medium or material are put together by the artist. This also connotes how the artist produces or how he arrange one or more subject. Giunsa ni siya pagporma, no? Giunsa ni siya pag-arrange ang mga subject, giunsa ni siya pagporma ang isang art form. I mean artwork. Okay? It also refers to how an artist bring together parts or combine them to produce something that is an art. So, example, in a painting, how does this particular artist bring in different subjects into one particular painting that tells a story? Sumon na siya ang form. Okay? In sciences, experimentation is the key to proving a hypothesis or larger theory. Sakto or dili? In researches, so kasi makarelate dili og research, I think you have especially those nursing students na naman siguro I don't know early on if you have research na, but yeah, research comprises on proving a hypothesis or a larger theory. So ingana ra pod ang in order to, you need experiment, no, in order to arrive or prove a hypothesis. That is in sciences, diba? But in arts, there are observable qualities that the artwork holds that will point to its subject and sometimes even to its content. So, kung sa science, ang research, you need experiments such as in research in order to prove a hypothesis or a larger theory. In arts, no, we find observable qualities that will point to the subject and even to its content. Now, that is the difference between the art and science. Now, always ra bata mo ask nga no mag-uban ng art and science, but do we truly understand what is a science and what is an art? Yeah? So, mo na siya ang difference nila. Okay? Okay, types of subject. As wait, I will check the time kay basig namugod ni particular time. Okay, so let's go to the types of subject. So remember that art has subject is what we call representational or objective art. So, diba, I mentioned before that there are arts that bears subject and there are those art forms that do not bear a subject. So, mo ni atong gipasabot karon. That art that has subject is what we call representational or objective art. When we say representational, of course, from the word nga representational, kahibaw na gito no, it represents something, no? It's plain and simple, it represents something. So when we say representational artworks, it means that these artworks represent a particular something, diba? While non-representational subject, art that uses no subject is called non-representational or non-objective art. So, mo ni ang type of art forms that uses doodles, distortion, abstract, no? So, mo na siya ang type of art forms. And we call it non-representational or non-objective. Okay? So, nasabta na ang difference between representational and non-representational. Very easy. Minkag representational, it has subject that represents. No? And then if we say non-representational, it does not bear any subject that would represent. Okay? So for your assignment 1, which is written, no? Mo na ni, ang di mamati sa video, patak-taka gasug answer ron. And the answer to this assignment should be in written form and be submitted in the submission link that I will create in Moodle. So your assignment 1 is give at least 5 examples of artworks that are representational and 5 examples of arts that are non-representational. And then of course you have to briefly, when you say briefly, di po 5 sentences. No, arang taasa nagasud po na. Oy, explain briefly why you think they belong in the types respectively. You don't need to explain each. Mabag. Okay, imong elaborate, nasa na? Imong i-itemize diha, list down the 5 examples of artworks that you think that are representational, and then why do you think so? List down po ka sa 5 examples of artworks that you think that are non-representational, and then why do you think so? Just 1 to 2 sentences is enough to explain. No. Okay, so let's discuss further this representational and non-representational art. Okay, let's start with representational art.